Hey y'all. Okay, this is our lecture video, I guess, for want of a better term, about our reading. It is from our text that I have posted on our website that I kind of went over, excuse me, that I kind of went over in class today being Tuesday the 28th. It is over the preface or the introduction and the first part of They Say, I Say. And we will start here. All right, so I have marked this up a little bit so that, well, basically so I can remember what it was I wanted to talk about, but also because that's how you engage well with what you're reading. That's how you make sure that you are holding on to those things, those pieces of knowledge that you're finding in the texts that you read. You actively read and you actively engage with the knowledge that you are working with. So as I was reading this, it occurred to me to wonder why it is that urgency needs to be added to writing. Why do we need to encourage students to consider urgency as it relates to their writing? And to me, I think it means that we want to encourage students to write who they are, to write authentic, real text, as opposed to just trying to say what they think the teacher wants to hear or say what the AI tells them to say. Those are not good. What we want, or at least what I want, is to hear what you have to say. And this book goes a long way towards helping students, or at least helping explain to students, why it is that the conversations that are going on in academia are conversations that you need to be a part of, and that they're actually conversations you can be a part of. That little bit in the first paragraph, good argumentative writing begins not with an act of assertion, but an act of listening. I think that is kind of it's something that you would not ordinarily think of when it comes to argument, right? We wouldn't ordinarily think of listening as part of argument, although, I think that that's the biggest part of argument. The most important part of writing is listening to what other people say. So, for one thing, so that we can learn more, learn what they think, why they think that way, but also so that we can best determine what it is that we need to, how it is that we can best formulate our response. So as we move on through here, we get to the next page and we see some discussion about those templates that I mentioned in class today. One of the templates is right here. Many people believe X, but my own view is Y. And that is a template. And there is a whole list. If you want to take a second now while I'm talking about this, scroll to the back of the book, or I guess technically it's the bottom of the book, and look at some of those templates. They're at the very end. They're in an appendix. So again, the authors are saying here that the templates are important because they help students see how they can be a part of the conversation. It's kind of like training wheels to help you get into a conversation that you might not otherwise feel comfortable in. It allows you to see reading as a matter not of passively absorbing information, but of understanding and actively entering dialogues and debates. If you get nothing else from this, I want you to get that this is that school, that college is a conversation, or at least when it works right. It's a conversation where you and another person discuss the things that you're learning, or you and an instructor discuss the things that are being taught, and you question those things, partly so you can understand them better, but also because you are a scholar and you have every ability and right to be involved in these conversations as anybody else. So, moving on, we get into the preface, and again, we see more discussion here about entering into conversations, and how writing well means engaging the voices of others and letting them in turn engage us. So it's not just you giving your opinion about something, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that is a very big part of writing, and it has its place in writing. The larger picture of writing is about the conversation, about engaging with other people and what other people think, and trying on the beliefs and the belief systems of other people to see how well they fit for us. Are there parts of things that other people are saying that make you say, oh, okay, I never thought about it that way, but I can see how you would think that. I still think this thing, but. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about conversation and engaging with others. Now, some of the highlights that the authors really want students to get as they're working through this text, and I agree with them, is that this text itself shows how writing well equates to entering into that conversation, where you begin by summarizing how you understand what other people have to say, and then moving into your own discussion of your own argument. So that's where they got the title, They Say, I Say. Further, this text demystifies academic writing, meaning that we understand, and I remember very clearly being extremely frustrated with the texts that I was reading in school, because they seemed all very theoretical, and they seemed very high-minded, and they didn't speak in ways that I could really get my head around, and I found it super frustrating. And so this is written in such a way to hopefully help you understand exactly what they mean when they are saying things. And then, of course, there's the mention of the templates again. Let's see. So more discussion of the templates. Here, even when writers do not explicitly identify the views that they are responding to, an implicit they say can often be discerned. And they give us an example. I remember the day I became colored. Well, when I first read this, I was completely clueless. I didn't get this. How is there a they say in that text? How are we supposed to understand what she actually means here? What is she responding to? And then we go on and we see that the authors have discussed exactly what they understand her meaning to be. In order to grasp Hurston's point here, we need to be able to reconstruct the implicit view she is responding to and questioning. And here's what that implicit view is: that racial identity is an innate quality we are simply born with. So they are saying that Hurston is questioning whether or not that's actually true. Is racial identity an innate quality we are simply born with? Were you born knowing how to, quote unquote, be whatever you are, or is it something that you learned? Did you learn how to be a man or how to be a woman or how to be non-binary? Did you learn how to be whatever it is that you are? And they're saying that Hurston believes that race is imposed on us by society, something that we become by virtue of how we are treated. I can totally see that, and I totally understand that, and certainly got it once it was explained. But initially reading that, I didn't get it. I couldn't quite place where the they say came from, where it was in that sentence. So you have to read between the lines, you have to read carefully, and you have to think about what the author is trying to tell you. Reading and writing are indeed, as the authors say here, deeply reciprocal activities. And reciprocal simply means that you give something and you take something. Reading and writing are activities in which the author gains something by writing and then by you reading it. And transversely, you get something by reading it and by the author writing it. So it's reciprocal. It gives and takes. As you're reading, always mark those terms that you don't know. Some more discussion of templates. The templates are really cool. They begin discussing the aim of the templates right here. The aim is not to stifle critical thinking and creativity, but instead to be direct with students about the key rhetorical moves that it comprises. So what they're saying here, I think, is that you can start with the templates if you're stuck, if you're not entirely sure what you're doing. Begin with those templates, but then as you begin to feel a little bit more like you're getting your sea legs, as they say, go in there and make things a little more complicated. Make things a little bit more in in your own voice, you know. But getting started by using those templates is just a really good jumping off place. They go on to say, since we encourage students to modify and adapt the templates to the particularities of the arguments that they are making, using such prefabricated formulas as learning tools need not result in writing and thinking that are themselves formulaic. So yes, you can use the templates, and yes, you should use the templates if you need them, but you shouldn't just limit yourself to those templates. Take your writing a step or two further than that. Ask questions, as they're discussing right here. I do want you to definitely make note here. There is a discussion of why it's okay to use I. I don't have a problem with using I. I think that has a lot to do with where I went to school and what I studied, because I was taught within a framework of the personal is political, and the personal and the experiential makes for very good examples and research material. So there's nothing wrong with using I. However, you have to learn the rules in order to successfully know when it's okay to break them, I think is the best way to put it. So for our purposes, certain things that we write, I am going to say you need to use this, use first person or use third person or what have you. Limit your I use. There are certain sentences or things that are standard tropes, I guess, within writing that just are clunky. And we see some of this down here. Let's see. These may be useful for avoiding a monotonous series of I believe sentences. And yes, definitely avoid those I believe sentences. Except for avoiding such monotony, we see no good reason why I should be set aside in persuasive writing. I do have certain instances where I say you can't use third person, or you can't use first person, or whatever. Don't use second person. It has more to do with staying within the realm of formal academic writing than anything else. And so it's me trying to teach you those rules of, here's when it's okay to break those rules. For instance, when you are writing your argumentative essay, if you choose a topic where you have personal experience with it, or you feel especially strongly about it because of a life situation you have had, then for heaven's sakes, that needs to go into the argument. And you can't do that if you don't use I. So it seems short-sighted to me to say you can never use I, but I will say be careful with it, don't overdo it, and definitely make sure it's okay with the instructor. How the book is organized, yada yada. Let's see. All right, so now we're into the introduction. Critical thinking and writing go deeper than any set of linguistic formulas, requiring that you question assumptions, develop strong claims, offer supporting reasons and evidence, consider opposing arguments, and so on. But these deeper habits of thought cannot be put into practice unless you have a language for expressing them in clear, organized ways. I think this is just so key to why it is that we still have writing classes, why it is that we still have humanities classes, because one of the things that you really need to learn in college is those deeper habits of thought, those ways to approach problems in the world that require you to have critical thinking. We are seeing right now in the outbreak of measles down in Texas what happens when people don't use critical thinking and don't understand that going on YouTube does not equate to doing their own research, quote unquote. Critical thinking means looking for those resources that are reliable, and looking for those resources and those speakers who actually know what they're talking about and have some experience. Being able to judge what is most likely reliable versus not reliable at all. Okay. State your own ideas as a response to others. This is the they say, I say formula. This is, the key to the whole book. The importance not only of expressing your ideas as I say, but of presenting those ideas as a response to some other person or group. In other words, they say. And you can't get there if you haven't listened to what other people have to say. If you haven't read the other side's arguments, you can't. We risk running afoul of not being able to see other people as actual human beings with legitimate beliefs and fears and worries if we don't actually listen to them and at least try to understand what they're saying. Down here at the very end of this page, at the bottom of this page, They say the best academic writing is deeply engaged in some way with other people's views. They have made that belief extremely clear, and I agree with them. They also make arguments. Instead, we make arguments because someone has said or done something, or perhaps not said or done something, and we need to respond. So, this is called exigence. This is the thing that happens that makes you say, I must speak now. Now is when I have to say something. When they begin to haul all of my neighbors away, and they're never seen again, I believe it's probably time for me to speak up. Maybe I should have spoken up a little earlier. But when you see something that makes you say, okay, this requires a response, you're talking about exigence. There's your $5 word for the day. So here they're discussing, they're taking they're taking a piece of writing by Martin Luther King that has to do with his letter from Birmingham jail, and it's made up entirely of exigency examples of things that have happened that made him say, okay, yeah, I can't shut up anymore, and yeah, I can't continue this sitting by and not doing anything. I have to step up my protests and become more vocal and really become a pain in the butt to the powers that be, so that we can see some change, because nothing ever changes just from people saying, gosh, this is terrible. You have to go out there and you have to bang pots and pans in the street, and you have to make people uncomfortable in order to see change. You can't just hope for it. And that's what he's saying here. You have said, oh, these things are terrible, but you should really not go out there and protest anymore. He's saying, yeah, no, that's not the way any of this works. He says, you deplore the demonstrations taking place in Birmingham, but your statement, I am sorry to say, fails to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstrations. So he's laying out right there that issue of exigency that made him say, I have got to speak now. So make sure that you read through. Just because I'm not talking about these things doesn't mean you shouldn't read them. Please do read them. I find any discussion and rhetorical analysis of the work that Martin Luther King Jr. did to be absolutely fascinating, and I love it. And I hope that you do read through this section a number of times, because I think it's just excellent. Let's see. Continuing on, we get more discussion of templates, templates possibly stifling creativity. Oh, and then the discussion of, isn't this plagiarism? I can see how students would be concerned about this, especially since instructors are increasingly yelling about plagiarism and AI and that sort of thing. Like I said in class today, we're going to talk a lot more about AI, but this right here is not plagiarism, because the authors are specifically saying, here you go. Use this writing. You can take it, do whatever you like with it. They are basically saying, I give up any claim to it. And if you look at those, if you look at the appendix and you look at some of those templates, it's very basic language. So, it's questionable whether or not, to me, it would be considered plagiarism. But I think that's a discussion that's very worth having. While it is not plagiarism to recycle conventionally used formulas, it is a serious academic offense to take the substantive content, I think those are the key words here, from others' texts without citing the author. So what they're giving you is a template, but it's not making your argument for you. It's giving you the scaffolding that allows you to put the argument you came up with into that building, essentially. Now, they make use of Kenneth Burke's description of a party. And this is a very famous piece of text that really goes a long way towards helping people understand the way that academic writing and academic discussion actually works. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I want you to read it, and I want you to think of academic discussion as being like the last party that you went to. You came into the party late, okay? You walk in late. The party is in full swing. Nobody's done a keg stand yet, but you can see that it may not be long. People have kind of started discussing things that are going on at work and at home and in the news, and they're talking about other people. Conversations are going on all around you at this party. That's pretty standard for a party. At least it was when I went to parties, which I no longer do. I'm way too old for that stuff. But when you go to a party and these conversations are going on all around you, you missed the first part of the conversation. And, you know, they may have turned into rather heated discussions. And nobody can really take the time to catch you up in this heated discussion because, by goodness, they want to stay involved in it. But you listen long enough to where you can say, okay, I know what's going on, and here's what I think. And so you jump in there and you do what he describes here as putting in your oar. So you put your oar in, and then somebody else says, yeah, you're full of hoo-ha, and it's really this way. Or somebody else says, no, he's right. She's right. This is actually the way it is. So you then become a part of that conversation. But you eventually do have to go home, sadly. Maybe you have curfew. Maybe you have to pay the babysitter. Maybe you're just tired of being at the party. You eventually have to leave. But what's important here is that that conversation does not ever stop. That conversation continues throughout the whole forever. I mean, regardless of how old the text is that you're reading, because you're reading it, that means that conversation is still going on. When you read Plato, you are having a conversation with people who are long, long dead. And I think that is so incredibly cool. Okay, now we are getting into part one, and you need to read all of part one. I will not be talking a whole lot about part one. I want you to read part one and see what you can find from it. They get into here at the very beginning some very important ideas, namely that in order to have a point, you need to have somebody else that you are responding to. You need to have the conversation. You need that conversation to be taking place so that you can jump into it. So if you don't know what that larger conversation is, that makes it really hard to jump into it. And so, because that's so important, the authors say that you really should start with what other people are saying, as opposed to here's what I think. Say what the other people are saying in a very brief paragraph, and then give your thesis statement, give your I say. Okay, we suggest that you summarize what they say as soon as you can in your text, and remind readers of it at strategic points as your text unfolds. Now, in this example, it's from George Orwell, Politics and the English Language. And he is saying here in this paragraph that, a lot of people think that there's nothing that can be done about the state of the English language, and we can't fix it. It's broken and cannot be fixed. And he's saying, oh, no, we actually can. We just have to put forth the effort. But as you can see, he's got most people right here. And that's him, they saying, okay? And he's saying, yeah, no, they're wrong. And I say that we can put forth the effort, and we can improve English. We can improve the language. Now we get into some more templates, and you can see how they're broken up here. The templates for introducing what they say, templates for introducing standard views. So that the templates have various purposes related to what you are trying to do rhetorically in what you're writing. They also mention return sentences. In conclusion, then, as I suggested earlier, defenders of X can't have it both ways. Their assertion that blank is contradicted by their claim that blank. So these are called return sentences. And we have this description of them here in this paragraph that I've marked. We ourselves use such return sentences at every opportunity in this book to remind you of the view of writing that our book questions, that good writing means making true or smart or logical statements about a given subject with little or no reference to what others say about it. All right, so I am going to now describe what I would like for you to write about as your writing assignment from this text. What I would like for you to do is to go to go to this exercise right here. It's on page 14 of the text, which actually technically is page 42, as you can see, because there's extra, pages in a PDF book. This is marked, I think, my screen is having some issues, as I think page 14. Yeah, that looks like 14. And the exercise is take that paragraph, and disregarding what she says, just disregarding for the moment what she says, focus your attention on the phrases that the author uses to structure what she says. And they've got these phrases italicized, okay? Then write a new paragraph using hers as a model, but replacing her topic with one of your own. So as you can see, what she's done here is she's talking about a term. The term vegetarian tends to be synonymous with tree hugger in many people's minds. They see vegetarianism as a cult that brainwashes its followers into eliminating an essential part of their daily diets for an abstract goal of animal welfare. However, Few vegetarians choose their lifestyle just to follow the crowd. On the contrary, so if you look at all of these italicized sections of the text, you will see that she's using the approaches that they have discussed in the book. So what I would like for you to do is come up with a topic of your own. It doesn't matter what it is. All you're using this topic for is this paragraph, okay? Write a new paragraph, replacing the topic with your own, and use those phrases that she's using here to explain your topic. Focus your attention on the phrases Poe uses to structure what she says. Then write a new paragraph using Poe's as a model, but replacing her topic with one of your own. So I'm asking you to use the templates that you see here in this example text about vegetarians and vegetarianisms. Whoops, down to right here. And use those as templates to help your reader understand your topic. So that's what you need to do in that in the assignment area for the writing assignment for our hybrid class day. Write that paragraph and submit it. I believe I've got it right above, right in the same area as where I'm putting this video. So hopefully you can find it. If you can't, email me. All right, so if you have questions about anything, please email me. If you have trouble accessing the text, email me. I will be, or ask me in class. I am happy to discuss this loads and loads more because I do love this book. All right, I hope you guys have a great Halloween.